In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint this beautiful alien barren landscape base in a cool color scheme with just dry brushing and contrast paint. Welcome to another Artis Opus tutorial. So in today's video, I'm going to be teaching you how to paint this gorgeous kind of cool blue barren alien landscape type base. You could call it whatever you wanted. It is basically a very, very fast paint job over Games Workshop texture paint. It doesn't matter which one you use because we're going to prime it black and go from the beginning anyway. And it's basically like a 4 or 5 step tutorial just using dry brushing and contrast paints to get you a very, very consistent, high quality base that is easily replicable. And if you're painting like 20 of these at once, would be massively efficient. It's all enjoyable, it's all good fun, and especially when you get to the tufts at the end, you really make a massive amount of steps in terms of improvement. You put a black base rim around it and some tufts on top, and you've got a super high level base, which is a brilliant way to get an army looking fantastic as efficiently as possible. So hopefully you'll like the tutorial. If you would like to see the model that is going to be on it, the Ultramarine, then please check out our other videos. We've also got an Imperial Fist, and we are smashing our way through Indomitus as we speak. If you have any more suggestions for future content, pop them below. We read all of them, and anything that is overwhelmingly requested jumps its way up the list to be the most likely to be featured in future videos. Thank you very much for watching. Without any further hesitation, let's get stuck in. Okay, so we've got our base here. This is just a Grelin Earth. If you'd like to see more on that, we've done a tutorial on how to control it. It's kind of the size of the flakes in the past. We'll link that in the video. I have hit it with a step of Monutorium varnish. You can hit it with any spray varnish, or you can brush on something, but I wouldn't recommend using PVA because we're about to use a pretty wet technique, and the nice thing about not using PVA is that you don't reawaken your surface. I'm using Dark Reaper here and a size 3 that I reserve for this type of dirty work. This brush has seen far better days. So we're keeping things pretty wet here. You don't have to be neat, you don't have to worry particularly about anything apart from making sure that you at least go to the edges of your base. Quickly, before it is dry, I'm going to go and get some blue horror, and in a couple of steps, stipple that here, stipple it there, stipple it there, wash our brush, and then we're going to use this brush to fuzz around the edges of these sections. Okay, so with that base coat dry, I've used a hairdryer, but if you're doing them in a batch, you can just go left to right down the line and they should dry naturally. You can also, if you're particularly conscious of time, use slightly more water in the mix and use a thinner amount of paint. I quite enjoy using it thick though. So we've got here a medium from Series D. And we've got our blue horror. Going to work the majority of it off our brush. Do that on a texture palette and then test it on a hand. And what we're looking to do here is just hit things with a nice stark contrast. Now obviously we've already used this colour in the lighter area, so it won't stand out as much there. But because you're using it from a brush and not thinned as a mix, you should still get a little bit of contrast. I'm going to put down a wash as it is anyway, so and repeat the step. So we've got some nice contrast on the way. And the larger your crackles are, so again, that's something you can control. Do check out our GW texture paint video. The larger your crackles or flakes are, the better they tend to be at picking up contrast anyway, because you get more exaggerated edges. So I've gone out all over the base. Make sure you go to the very edges. Then we're going to hit everything with a quick wash. Alright, so this is going to be a slightly strange wash. Using contrast Athematic blue. You can use this in a palette if you want. I'm just going to use it on my texture palette. And then we've got a tiny bit of a Baden Black. Now Baden Black by black standards is really not too dark. So it's actually quite good for making washes like this. Just mix it with a bit of water, and then that's going to go all over the base. Now we're going pretty thin. If you want it to contrast more, then you can use more Baden Black. If you want it to be really funky, then you can use less Baden Black, less water, and more of the Athematic blue. I'm going to put in a tiny bit more Baden Black, particularly in the sections where we've got the cracks. I'd like those to be pretty high contrast, so There we go, more red and black works like that. Like I say, I've demonstrated the various ways you can use it here in one go. It's a pretty fast technique, so pop that all over, make sure you let this dry thoroughly, and then we'll come back for the final steps. Now our base is looking pretty nice there. We've gone back to the blue horror, same brush, and we're going to be hitting it with another fairly light stage here. Now it's looking quite greeny given the wash that we've used, so this it's more in the blue spectrum. It's also a bit more pastel, less saturated. This will knock it back a little bit, so if you want it to remain super blue, then maybe you do the wash at the end. Sorry, super turquoise, maybe you do the wash at the end. We're going to leave it here though. So tiny bit of white scar, just a little. Using the same brush, I've not cleaned it since, so it's got quite a bit of the blue horror in the bristles. And then this should really help all those crisp edges pop. Again, every single one of these steps, we make sure we go right to the edge. It's really important when we do the black base rim that things don't end unnaturally before that base rim. You want them to end as a result of the base rim. So, black base rim. This is the only color that I ever paint my base rims. Other colors are available, but I do not believe they are correct. So, all around the base rim. Don't be afraid to use a fairly thick coat of paint here. Obviously don't put it on neat, but make sure that you get a nice, crisp, smooth finish. A couple of ways to approach getting it clean towards the edges. You can use the side of your brush, like this, and that'll make sure that it'll go up there, or you can follow it around manually. Side of your brush is probably safer, but if you're fairly confident, then you can just whack it around like that. I tend to find it's faster to go around like that, but I do make more mistakes, so whichever way you're comfortable with, that's the way forwards. And once this is done, the base should look lovely and crisp. So as far as detailing goes on this guy, you could absolutely put some pigments down. I think that would look really good, but I'm trying to keep this pretty smooth and fast. So I have a skull and I've got some mountain tufts, as I feel that anything grown on a landscape that looks that strange would really be struggling. So definitely wouldn't be luscious. So we're going to pop them down and then we're done. All right, finished model. So there we have him on our kind of teal alien base that we've done. It's a cool turquoisey grey. Really, really lovely for setting a slightly unconventional feel to it, but he looks awesome, mega effective. A squad of 10 of those would look absolutely amazing on the table, really something you could be proud of. And considering the level of detail you've got on them, the time that you've put into it really is a bargain. So fantastic way to get something on the tabletop to a high standard as fast as possible. Okay, so that is the base with a model on it. We have based for cohesion here, so this is a overall very, very cool model. You can absolutely go the other way and you can do a warm version of this. We've got a Mars basing tutorial that's going to be coming out in the future, so subscribe if you'd like to see that. Couple of things to note, so tufts and base rimming. So keeping your base rim clean of sand or of texture paint, stuff like that, like please do it. You will reap the dividends of it later on when you've got that lovely crisp clean black frame to your model. It helps it stand out, and whatever table or surface or environment you step it on, it separates itself cleanly and then stands out solidly in its own right. So it's really, really worth doing. The detailing as well, whether it's tufts, pigments, skulls, crystals, whatever it is, adding just one version of one detail to a base as a minimum, whether that's one tuft or one skull or whatever you're doing. Never mind using a couple of different types. It really, really does help tell a better narrative for your model. You're setting it in an environment rather than just on a flat thing. And what that can do over an entire army or a squad is huge. It's a really, really efficient way to spend your time, and it can give you something that you give a better job of being something you can look at and be really, really proud of, because it just tells a better story visually. So I really, really recommend that. Try out some tufts, try out some pigments, try out some stuff like that, and you can play around with them. You don't have to glue them down until you're happy with the placing. They're hugely forgiving, and it's really, really, really just beautiful to see an army that has been set solidly in an environment that's been well thought out. So I hope you liked the video. Please like, comment and subscribe. Anything that's suggested below in the comments, we massively appreciate. Read each and every one of them, and the ones that are requested the most are the most likely to be featured in future content. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.